dad had me when they were very, very young. My mom was 14 years old when she got pregnant with me. From what my mom told me, my parents were pretty much together throughout the whole pregnancy. Even though they were both in high school, they wanted to move in together and try to raise me like a regular family. But my maternal grandmother had a very big issue with this. She wanted my mom to continue going to high school and possibly even give me up for adoption. But my mom was not having it, so she decided to move out with my dad. Once I was born, unfortunately, my parents just couldn't take care of me. My dad was too busy playing his football and trying to get a scholarship. And my mom just didn't really know how to take care of a child. I mean, she was a child herself. This is when my grandmother stepped in and decided to take me in, which I thank God for every single day of my life. My grandmother raised me as her own daughter, and she has been the most amazing woman in my entire life. My parents split up, and through most of my childhood, I lived with my mom and my grandmother. Story time about how my father is obsessed with me. Disclaimer, is not my story time, instead of me on Instagram. And trigger warning. I finally saw my father again when I was 15 years old. From the moment he saw me, he wanted to hug me and kiss me all the time. At first I thought it was normal because he's my father and he hadn't seen me in over 10 years. After a few weeks of him coming to visit me, I started feeling really strange. This was also around the time where I was getting noticed by boys in school. And you know that feeling you get when you know a guy likes you? Well, that's the feeling I started getting from my own father. Every time he touched me, it was like too touchy. And every kiss was just strange. One of the things that really started to bother me was that he liked going to the beach, and he wanted to make it a thing. He would always say, let's go to the beach on the weekend, but I didn't feel comfortable with him. First off, he never invited my mom to come or my grandma, so it was always just me and him. He even took me shopping for bikinis, and this is when my stomach dropped. At the bikini shop, he asked for small bikinis, like the type that show a lot of skin. Told him I wasn't comfortable with that. I wanted a bathing suit. He said no and bought me a thong bikini. He stared at me all day at the beach. Part 3 is up. To wear it at the beach, I noticed he was staring at me. I wrapped myself in a towel and told him I wanted to leave. After that, I told my mom and my grandma how I felt about my dad. They thought that I was exaggerating, but I knew that I wasn't. My mom asked him to never ever do anything like that again, and he said he wouldn't. After that, he would always do certain things, like stare at me too much, or always want to hug me and kiss me. And for my own comfort and safety, I put a lot of space between him and I. When I was 18, I finally got my first boyfriend. He became enraged when my mom told him. He told my mom that I was acting like a slut. That's when I cut him out completely from my life. A year later, I got on Instagram, and that's when he started following me there. He started leaving strange comments on all my pictures, and eventually he started offering me money to spend more time with him. I told him I wasn't comfortable with him. That's when he told me that all he wanted to do was watch me take a bath, and that he would pay me thousands if I let him. My grandmother and my mom have completely cut him out of our lives. On the day of my wedding, we hired security to keep him away. And of course, he managed to show up, but security kicked him out. I'm thinking I should get a restraining order. Luckily, my mental health hasn't suffered too much from this. He's obviously an unwell person, but I actually feel really bad for him. And I feel like getting a restraining order is just gonna make things worse. What the heck should I do? Bye. Story time about how I caught my dad watching me while I changed. I think he's trying to gaslight me. I need help. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, instead of me on Instagram. I'm 17 years old, about to turn 18. My parents got a divorce when I was 13. My mom caught him cheating on her over several times. And one of the times, he even did it at home with some girl he met at a bar. Because of that, my mom told me not to ever trust him. But the way she would say things made me think that there was something else behind everything. After the divorce, my mom got full custody, thank God. This is when my mom told me that I needed to stay away from him. She told me that if I ever found myself alone with him, that I should just call her and tell her to pick me up. When I was 13, I never thought about it twice. After the divorce, my dad started dating a 19-year-old girl. Mind you, he was 46 at the time. When my mom found out, I remember she called him. She told him he was disgusting for dating someone that was 19. But my dad laughed on the phone and hung up on her. My mom didn't even know that I heard the conversation, but she had it on speaker, so I did. He did have rights to visitation though, so he would come over every Saturday and Sunday to visit me. But my mom never left us alone. But my dad has been giving me such weird vibes lately. When I bring it up to him, he says I'm hallucinating and imagining. Story time about how I caught my dad watching me change. I think he's trying to gaslight me. I need help. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, instead of me on Instagram. When I turned 15, I started growing more into my body. My boobula started growing in a little more. This is when I noticed that my dad would look at me a lot more when he would come over to visit me. But like I said, my mom never left us alone. This is also around the time that my dad started asking me if I was interested in boys, and that if I ever let a boy touch me before. But it's the way that he said it. It wasn't like in a fatherly way. It was in a gross, nosy way. As soon as he asked me that, my mom told him to stop talking to me like that. And she answered for me. She said, of course she doesn't let boys touch her. What do you expect? My dad laughed and said, okay, fine. Just making sure. I was completely grossed out by my own father. Ew. When I turned 16, my mom started letting me date, and this boy I really liked actually asked me out. I was really excited. I mean, he said he wanted to meet my mom. He came over on a Saturday and my mom made lunch for us. We had a really great time, but then my dad knocks on the door. By the way, he told us that he wasn't going to be able to come, which is why my mom invited my boyfriend in the first place. As soon as my dad comes in, he started acting jealous. Part 3 is up. Story time about how I caught my dad watching me change. I think he's trying to gaslight me. I need help. Disclaimers and now I started telling my son me on Instagram. That's when my dad started acting all jealous when he saw my boyfriend. He took my mom into another room and said that I shouldn't have a boyfriend and that I was too young and that he would take advantage of me. But my mom stood her ground. She asked him politely to leave and he did. The following Saturday, my dad comes over to visit again. This time I was in my room changing. My mom told him that I was in my room changing, but she went to the kitchen. Obviously, this is when my dad comes upstairs. The door was slightly open and he could see inside. I was finishing putting on a t-shirt, and when I turn around, there he is looking. I screamed and told him that he scared me, and I told him, "Why are you watching me change?" He said, "You're crazy, I wasn't doing that." I said, "Yes, you were, I just saw you." I was so weirded out. After he left, I asked my mom why she never leaves me alone with him. That's when she told me that he was accused of SAing an underage girl. So I told my mom what happened. That's when she said he's never coming back to this house again. Now my dad is gaslighting both me and my mom. He even called me a liar and that I'm making it up. But my mom, of course, believes me. What should we do? My friend confessed to me that he's attracted to my best friend. Should I leave him? Disclaimers on my story time and send me on Instagram. I know you guys are gonna all say yes immediately, but hear me out. My boyfriend and I have been dating for 6 months. My best friend and I actually met him at a bar. That night, I never expected that he would ever come after me. I consider my best friend the prettier of the two of us, so I'm used to her getting hit on instead of me. But that night, my boyfriend came to me. He talked to me pretty much the entire night, and my best friend told me to go for it. So I did. He and I spent the night together, and after that, we were inseparable. To the point where he wanted me to move in with him after 2 months. My parents thought I was absolutely crazy and they didn't want me to move in with him, but I did anyway. I come from a Latino family, so this was absolutely reprehensible. I went against my family's wishes and they actually stopped speaking to me for a little bit, but luckily I got them back. My boyfriend during that time gave me all his support. He told me that my family would come around eventually and that they would see that we were in love. So living together was the logical next step. After 3 months of living together, I knew that I wanted to marry him, and he would talk about marriage all the time. He asked me what kind of ring I would want and what I would want for the proposal. We even started talking about our honeymoon. I was also starting to get in the best shape of my life. I was looking super snatched. My boyfriend told me that he loved the way that I look, but that he didn't want me to get skinny. Again, I just felt like he was supporting me and loving me. Around this time, my best friend started dating somebody. After a few weeks, they got really serious about the relationship. And of course, we went on double dates. After the third double date, I noticed that my boyfriend was getting a little annoyed. I got the feeling he was jealous of my best friend's boyfriend. Follow for part 2. My boyfriend confessed to me that he's attracted to my best friend. Should I leave him? Disclaimers not my story time. Send me on Instagram. I asked him if he was jealous of my best friend's boyfriend, and that's when he said no. But every time we would go on double dates, he would get in such a bad mood. 3 weeks ago, my best friend told me that she was moving in with her boyfriend. And when I told my boyfriend that they were moving in, his face almost went green. I asked him what was wrong and he said nothing. After that, he went into the bathroom and didn't come out for 40 minutes. Again, I asked him if he was okay and he said yeah. And I sat him down and asked him to be honest with me. That's when he said, "I'm attracted to your best friend." Instantly started to cry because I had already been suspecting it. He explained to me that he didn't have any feelings for her until she got a boyfriend, and that he felt that he had some sort of ownership over her. Before my best friend got a boyfriend, the three of us would hang out a lot. And not once then did I ever get a feeling that he was attracted to her. He told me that he would never act on his feelings, but he didn't want to go on any more double dates. I asked him if he wanted to be with her instead of me, and he said absolutely not. He said that I was the love of his life and that attraction only meant attraction, that he didn't have feelings for her. A few days later, he took me to the most expensive restaurant in our city and asked me to marry him. But I didn't know what to say. I can't stop thinking that he's attracted to my best friend. Part 3 is up. He confessed to me that he's attracted to my best friend. What should I do? Disclaimer is not my story. I'm sending me on Instagram. After he proposed, I told him I didn't know what to say. He told me to think it over. I finally decided to tell my best friend what my boyfriend had told me. But he had confessed that he was attracted to her. First she laughed. I told her no. I'm serious. He confessed that he's attracted to you. That's when she told me I needed to break up with him. That's when I told her that he had also proposed. And she said, well, then you really need to break up with him now. That's when she told me that she didn't want me to resent her and that it was completely out of her control. And I didn't. I promised her that I would never resent her for my boyfriend being attracted to her. It's not like she ever did anything on purpose to make him feel attracted. She also told me that marrying him right now would be rushing into it, and she's kind of right. We've only really known each other for 6 months. Then she told me that she's never gotten the feeling that he's attracted to her. She's never caught him looking at her or anything like that. So now her theory is that he's looking for an easy way out, and that he probably wants me to break up with him. But my boyfriend is still sweet and super affectionate. He's constantly showering me with love. My best friend thinks that if I stay with him, our relationship will suffer. I've known my best friend longer. What should I do?